They did a study and they found that when they were sleeping 8.5 hours, they lost 55% more body fat.
Welcome to the Food Matters Podcast, your home for health and wellness. My name is James Colquhoun, filmmaker and founder of foodmatters.com, and I am your host on this journey to inner and outer transformation. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a short moment to talk to you about the Food Matters Nutrition Certification Program, because studying nutrition completely changed my life. It helped me to heal my father, get him off 6 different medications, lose 50 pounds, and completely regain and transform his life and health. But the problem is that we're not really taught about nutrition in our schooling system. The medical profession is rarely pronouncing the facts of using nutrition as medicine. And we have a fast food industry that thrives off misleading consumers. So if you're looking to learn about how to use nutrition as medicine to either heal yourself or a loved one or help prevent chronic disease, or you want to take that next step on your study and nutrition journey and become a certified nutrition coach, then the Food Matters Nutrition Certification Program is for you. This is a 10-week or self-paced, internationally accredited certification program designed to take you through some of the most important topics on the latest research when it comes to nutrition and natural healing, including gut healing, autoimmune conditions, balancing hormones naturally, detoxification, biochemical individual approaches to nutrition. Plus, it brings together the best that we know about nutrition science and anthropological research, and bringing these two approaches together to help you cut through the confusion about what to eat and what to avoid for optimum health. To find out more about the Nutrition Certification Program, plus to download your curriculum guide, head to foodmatters.com/study. You can pause this right now. It will only take you 30 seconds. That's foodmatters.com/study, or you can head to the show notes for more information. Have a beautiful day. Hi, it's James here from Food Matters, and I'm excited to talk to you about a topic today, which is actually pretty boring if you think about it, because most of the time when we're doing it, we're quite unconscious, and it's about sleep. And it's something that we do a lot of the time, but thank goodness it's increasing in popularity in terms of its impact on our health, and it's increasing in popularity in terms of its importance when it comes to our overall well-being. And my guest today is Australia's #1 leading expert when it comes to sleep. Her name is Olivia Arezzolo, and she has 9 years of study in psychology and sleep psychology, a diploma of health science, plus a Cert 4 in fitness. She's got a best-selling book called Bear, Lion, or Wolf, which is now available in 8 languages. And we are going to be talking about things like the best foods and nutrients for sleep, some game-changing bedtime rituals. Love that. Can't wait to learn more on that. How sleep relates to gut health, and the importance of sleep for our overall health, including anxiety and weight loss. So some super important topics. And just a heads up, we do have some other podcasts that cover this topic as well. I'm sure we're going to cover some different angles today. But Dr. Alan Christensen is one that comes to mind when it comes to sleep and stress in particular. Dr. Libby Weaver loves this topic, especially when it comes to that, and Sean Stevenson. So make sure to check them out too if this is a topic that's important to you. Olivia, hey, what's up? Great to have you here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, James. I remember I started paying attention to Food Matters like literally years and years ago. So when we connected on Instagram recently, I was like, James, Food Matters. I know this guy.
Yes, through a mutual friend of ours, Simon Hill.
Right?
So that's very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, nice. I
Yeah.
love how the world connects, and I guess that was the intention of social media platforms, right? Was to connect people.
Mm-mm. And I actually love it. I feel like I've connected with a lot of really great people on particularly Instagram. That's my favorite, and people I just wouldn't have necessarily connected with in the past. From all over the world, and so. I know it cops a lot of flack, especially from sleep specialists who ask us to get off our phones, self included. But I will say, it's a beautiful medium and a beautiful platform that, when used in the right way, can connect us. And I think that's the tool. I think that's the key. It is
Mm,
a tool. It
mm,
needs to be used in the right way. Um, so yeah, so I am super excited to be here because exactly as you mentioned before, sleep is so important and does have so many links to other areas of our health.
mm.
Not just sleep in itself, but how does it relate to diet? How does it relate to gut health? All of these elements. Which so I'm really excited to be here and share with your audience.
Nice. Awesome. Epic. Welcome. First of all, how did you get interested in sleep? Like you studied psychology and nutrition. What was it about sleep that really interested you that perked your interest, should I say?
So I'll be completely honest. I'm actually not that interested in sleep. The reason why I do sleep is because other people need me to be interested.
Mm,
So um, I have the intention to help everyone feel their best inside and out. I had a really challenging journey through my teens and 20s and even, till recently with mental health,
mm,
depression, anxiety, anorexia. These things have been really hard for me, over the course of my adult life. And throughout periods where I've been, in the more recovered phase, I've always wanted to be the person that has helped other people recover from their challenges as well. So I didn't necessarily just want to do one thing. I was like, I just want to help people feel their best inside and out. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that looks like. I just know that that's my purpose here because I know too much about that, the depths of mental illness and the emergence from it. And so
mm,
I know this too well, and I know that I need to help people through this. So I said to myself, all right, I'm just going to study lots of degrees, all related to health. So I studied a Bachelor of Social Science, Psychology, Certificate of Sleep Psychology, Diploma of Health Science, Nutritional Medicine, and Cert 3 in 4 in Fitness. And so my idea was to do coaching, holistic coaching. And I knew that over time I would find my niche and I just had to, put it out there. And then so I started doing coaching and I had a few different clients and I had some sleep clients. And then they got really good results really fast. And so I started to discuss this with other people, and literally every second person was like, help me with sleep, help me with sleep, help me with sleep. And I
mm.
was just like, wow, I think this is like a thing.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it from like a media perspective, because that was another vision I always had in my head, be like a leader in the media as well. And then I thought, who's a sleep expert that, like a well-known sleep expert that I could go to? And there was no one in Australia, especially. And so I thought, I think that there's a need for somebody to be a leader in this space and be a guide for individuals and a go-to for them to look up to be able to help their sleep. And
Nice.
so I had this feeling, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to specialize. And so I did, curtailed my all of my learnings, and my did some more extensive study, and then a few months later, I started being approached by these massive brands. My first two brand campaigns were with Sealy Posturepedic and IKEA.
Mm,
And so if that didn't tell me that, I was on the right track, like, two of the biggest brands in the bedding world, asking me to be their media spokesperson, it was quite clear that, I'm very believing in the universal powers. And it was quite clear the universe was telling me, Olivia, you need to be the sleep girl. So that's how it sort of started. But, I mentioned I'm not really that interested. I wasn't that interested in sleep before. I actually am now because now I understand sleep and how important it is for every element of our life. And so, my intention to help people feel at their best inside and out, I achieve that by helping them sleep because it impacts every area of our life.
mm. One of the things you said was, in your journey was specifically around mental illness like anxiety and depression. And I know myself, I've been through, moments where I've felt anxious or been worried about things. And that's when your sleep suffers, right? And so many people, my father suffered from really bad anxiety and he suffered with poor sleep. And, that's where it impacts your life really is in poor sleep. And then if there's any mothers listening to this, they know that if they've had a child and your sleep quality diminishes, how bad you can feel. So imagine having anxiety or depression and then having poor quality sleep, then the ricochet effect on the rest of your life is quite deep, right?
Mm. It definitely is, yeah. So there was a research study that found um, insomniacs are 10 times more likely to have an anxiety disorder, and they're 17 times more likely to have an anxiety disorder, and they're 10 times more likely to have depression. And then
Mm,
also it goes the other way as well. 70% of those with generalized anxiety disorder have a meets the clinical criteria for insomnia, and
mm,
80% of those with depression experience sleeping problems.
mm.
So there's huge correlation statistically, but the thing is that the reason why these two elements are so closely related, mental health and sleep, is because the neurotransmitters that are altered in a lack of sleep are the ones responsible for happiness.
Yeah.
So things like dopamine and serotonin. If you don't sleep enough, you don't have what's called a refractory period, which allows these neurotransmitters to regenerate overnight. That happens in sleep.
Mm,
So when you wake up feeling really flat and fatigued, that's not just lack of energy, physical energy, that's a lack of emotional energy as well. And that's because you haven't slept enough. Stress hormone cortisol, that increases by 37% after one night of a lack of sleep. How does that leave us feeling the next day? Anxious, wired, unable to switch off.
mm.
And I think it's really, really important to highlight these two interrelationships, because people listening, they may have mild sleep problems, but major, mental health issues. But understanding that if you improve your sleep, by consequence, your mental health will improve. And I think that's so powerful, because I think mental health is so challenging to tackle that, and it's often, and you're often unsure how to go about it. But if you use the avenue of sleep, you can actually see really, uh, you know, a lot of progress without actually addressing, the psychology of whatever mental illness you're going through.
Mm. Yeah, that's profound, that relationship. And I guess not only like talking about the problems of poor sleep, but not only connecting mental health, but things like weight gain or gut health. Like, what are some correlations you found between these problems, which are quite prolific now? You think about, I know in the Food Matters community, there's so much discussion around improving the gut, and the problems associated with gut dysbiosis, including autoimmune conditions and so much more. Tell me about what you found when it comes to research and gut health and even weight gain.
Hmm. So let's start with weight gain, something that I know that challenges so many people. I think it's like, what, 78% of individuals worldwide are now either overweight or obese. So
Hmm.
it's, like one in almost what, four in five, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So four in five. So if it's not me and it's not you, then we're an anomaly.
yeah, yeah.
So there was a study that found individuals sleeping. So they did a double blind, a crossover design. So not crossover design. they did a study.
Mhm.
They did a study and they found that when they were giving individuals the same amount of calories and allowing them to exercise the same amount, the only variable that they changed was the amount of sleep that they allowed them to have. So for 2 weeks, they allowed this group of individuals to sleep for 8.5 hours. Then they had a washout period, and then they allowed them, the same individuals, to sleep for 5.5 hours. They were attempting for them to lose weight, so they were having a restricted calorie diet, and they were controlling how much exercise they did. So everything was the same. The only thing that changed was the amount of sleep that
Mm.
they had. When they were sleeping 8.5 hours, they lost 55% more body fat.
Mm.
The only thing that changed was the sleep. They were eating the exact same calories. They were exercising the exact same amount. They were
Mm.
the same individuals. So you can't say it was individual difference.
Mm.
The only thing that changed was the amount of sleep that they had. Now, why does this happen? This is largely related to the the changes in body composition which come as a result of the hormonal changes
Mm.
as of lack of sleep. Now, I mentioned before, cortisol increases by 37%. That not only makes you feel wired, anxious, unable to switch off, cortisol catabolizes your muscle mass. So what they actually found in this study, and so for anyone who is not familiar with that term, catabolize means breaks down. So when you're not sleeping enough, your muscles break down. As a result, lean muscle mass decreases. As a result, metabolism decreases.
Mm.
Hence, in both conditions, they lost weight, but the fat loss came from the condition 55% more body fat loss, which is a lot.
Mm.
That came from more sleep, 3 hours more sleep, right?
Yeah. Wow.
That's huge,
Yeah.
right? But there was another study about that was about the impact of lack of sleep on hunger hormones. So they found that when individuals were only allowed to sleep 4 hours per night, they had an increase in their hunger hormone ghrelin by
Mm.
28%. They had a decrease in satiety hormone, leptin, by 18%. They had a 23% increase in their appetite. And specifically, they had a 45% increase in their cravings for sugary carbohydrates. So if anyone's listening to this and thinking, no wonder when I'm, after a bad night of sleep, I cannot, get away from the muffins or the cookies, the chocolate.
Mm.
This is not just your lack of willpower. This is the hunger hormones in your body being altered. Why do they have a preference for those sugary carbohydrates? Because they give us the shortest burst of energy. They're easy to break down. A sugar breaks down much quicker than and gives us a hit of energy much quicker than a starchy carbohydrate
Mm. It's
or
interesting.
or a complex carbohydrate, right?
Yeah.
And a lack of sleep, because we don't have the normal regeneration of things like serotonin, which gives us energy. It's an alerting hormone. We don't have complete production of human growth hormone.
Mm.
70% of that is produced in slow wave sleep. This helps our cells repair and renew to be energized the next day. When we don't have this period where we get our growth hormone produced to that degree, the body is in a state of fatigue.
Mm.
And so it's only completely natural that as a result, we are reaching for sugary carbohydrates
Yeah.
to give us that energy that we need.
That quick hit.
Yeah, yeah. They're two of my
Yeah.
favorite studies that I love discussing around weight loss and lack of sleep and the impact. And I feel like that really
Yeah.
resonates with people,
It's in a way what you're saying is like a lack of sleep is actually a stressor to the body. Like you're saying, like it raises cortisol levels. And whenever we raise cortisol levels, then the flow on effect of that is especially in a chronic state, like something that's experienced over a long period of time, is something that can be completely dangerous for health, human health. Now, not only in suppressing immune system function and leading to chronic disease, but like you're saying, also decreasing the satiation hormone, increasing cravings, especially for sugar and carbohydrates, which we know it's not fat that makes you fat, or at least everyone listening to this podcast knows that. It's sugar that makes you fat, and it's white, fluffy, processed carbohydrates that make you fat. So, great study. Thank you for sharing that. And I know that people on a weight loss journey here would be certainly keying into probably more of our later part of the discussion about what we can do to sleep better. But second point that I brought up was around gut health. So,
Mm.
and we've spoken about the connection between stress and so forth. Now, what about sleep and gut health? Is there anything that connects those two together? Because I know it's such a huge thing for so many people.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. There is huge correlation between, gut health and lack of sleep. So overall, bodily inflammation increases with lack of sleep, and this includes in the gut health, so in gut, by about 20%. Now, there is specifically a rise in pro-inflammatory cytokines, which signal to the body that there is something wrong. So overall, this happens in the gut as well. Now, what this leads to is a compromised gut microbiome. So, there's been studies that have found that lack of sleep correlates with lack of diversity in
Mm.
in the microbiome, which, as I'm sure you're aware, then compromises our overall well-being. Second to that, we need to recognize that with a compromised microbiome, we limit our ability to digest the sleep nutrients that we need for proper sleep
Yeah.
to cycle. So, lack of sleep correlates with a less diverse microbiome as well as increased inflammation, which therefore compromises our ability to absorb key sleep micronutrients, things like magnesium, we all know about, but there's lesser awareness about the importance of nutrients like vitamin C, vitamin B, vitamin A. All of these nutrients correlate with longer sleep, deeper sleep, more restful sleep. And so when we compromise our gut composition, we have an impaired ability to absorb these nutrients, which
Hmm.
therefore compromise our sleep even further. Outside of that, I think it's also really important to know that, when you are having a compromised microbiome, you also then compromise your ability to create serotonin, that sleepiness hormone. Now, sorry, serotonin, that happiness hormone.
Hmm.
But interestingly, I think there's lesser awareness that in the darkness, serotonin is converted to melatonin,
Yeah. Wow.
right? So 90% of serotonin is made in the gut. So if we're not sleeping enough, we compromise our gut health. Therefore, we compromise our serotonin production, which compromises happiness in itself. But in the evening, then we don't have serotonin, which is a precursor for melatonin, the
Mm.
sleepiness hormone. Yeah.
So it's like a cycle. And I think also probably just connecting back to your first point, if you're not sleeping well, it raises cortisol, which is stress. And I know through many of the researchers I've worked with and through, the data we have in our nutrition certification program, that stress negatively impacts the gut microbiome. So again, it's another flow on effect that
Mm.
is a cycle, you know. But in your book, like I haven't read your book yet, but I've seen it online and I've seen the title, and it's called Bear, Lion, Wolf. Is that right? Yeah, Bear, Lion, or Wolf. Now,
Mm-hmm.
my guess is these are different profiles because I did the test on your website as well, and these are different profiles for helping people maybe understand their sleep type or their sort of archetype in a way when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to sleep. And I guess that probably helps people define different rituals or a different approach, or just at least to put them in a category. Like, do I wake up early, or am I a night owl, as they say? Or do I, which could lead to having more troubles going back to sleep, whatever it might be. Explain to me about these different sleep profiles and how that people could understand, maybe even just listening to this, which category they might fall into.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I'd love to. So it's exactly as you've identified. So different sleep types or sleep archetypes or sleep chronotypes. Now, what a chronotype is and is a categorization system of your circadian rhythm. So if you have an early phase or an early preference of your circadian rhythm, this means that you like to go to bed and wake up early. This is a lion. James, you're a lion. I am a
Mm-hmm.
lion too. If you have a late preference, this means that you like to go to bed late and wake up late. Now, I mean like considerably late, like, 12, 1 o'clock, wake up no earlier than 8 o'clock if you can. These individuals are called wolves. And then you've got the ones that fall in the middle, which are bears, and they like to rise and wake neither early nor late. So I'm saying around about 11 they like to go to bed, and then around about 7 they like to wake up. Now, why it's important for us to know our sleep type. One, it helps us understand when we should actually be asleep. So, for example, some lions, like ourselves, may be faced with opportunities, as we all are, to be up really late and, like to be up late and, to be able to sleep in a little bit in the morning, right? But if we know that we're a lion and it truly aligns with our biology to go to bed and rest early, I think there is a greater acceptance for us to actually honor that.
Mm.
Now, equally, I think, and this is especially important for the ones at the other end of the spectrum, the wolves. So, if you know you're a wolf and you know that you have a really late preference for your, and this isn't just like a preference. It's like, oh, I feel like having strawberry ice cream today. This is a biologically wired preference, so it's inherent to you.
Mm.
So if you know that you're a wolf and that you need to that you don't feel tired until about 12, 1 o'clock, even later sometimes, then planning a morning activity that really, really stresses your body at a time when you're actually really fatigued, it's easier to accept that actually that's just not for you. I think there's a lot of guilt and a lot of shame about people who can't get up and win the morning. I was up at 5 o'clock and, I've already, now it's 7:30 and I've already gone for a workout. I've gone for a juice. I've gone for a walk and I've, you know, planned my day's activity. I've meditated, like for that, that's great. If you're a morning person, if you're a lion and if you're a bear, then potentially that's great. But if you're a wolf, then I don't want you to sit there and be ashamed of yourself because you can't get up and, smash out 7 activities before
Mm.
7:30
Yeah.
when at that time your melatonin levels are actually really high. Therefore, you're actually really fatigued. And this isn't anything wrong with you. This is just your biology. So that's one reason why it's really important to know.
Nice.
The second reason why is because it correlates with different sleep needs. Now, I always get this question: how long should I sleep for? And to that, I say, well, it depends on your sleep type. Because if you are a lion, typically you need only around 7 hours of sleep. That is, if it's high quality. If you are a bear, you need a lot more sleep. You have a high sleep need. Now, this means that you need 8.5 to 9 hours to feel rested. And if you are a wolf, you have a medium sleep need, which means in the bracket of 7 to 9 hours.
Hmm.
But because wolves are often unable to get sleep because they don't feel sleepy until around 1 o'clock, then they're often feeling like fatigued because they don't get that minimum amount they need.
Mm.
The third reason why it's really important to know your sleep type is because it helps us identify our characteristic sleep saboteurs. So, for example, lions have a tendency to become anxious and as a result experience light sleep. That's something that they need to look out for. Hey, am I managing my anxiety right now? Bears, on the other hand, they need to watch out for screen time. They have a tendency to be more fatigued. They have a more stable energy, but towards the end of the night, it's quite low. As a result, they often use screens to switch off. So they need to watch out for, hey, am I honoring that, 1 hour of no tech time before bed? And then wolves, they have an addictive personality. So they need to be careful of addictive substances such as caffeine and alcohol.
Do your health goals seem out of reach? I completely know the feeling because my family has been there. For us, it all began with a film, one that Laurentine and I were inspired to make to help my father heal from chronic fatigue syndrome and support his body naturally. And you know what? It worked. He went from being on a cocktail of 6 different medications a day to living a happy, healthy, and pain-free life using natural foods and holistic remedies in less than 3 months. That's when we knew that this information had to be shared with the world. And this became our very first film, Food Matters, which we released in 2008. Since that film came out, we've gone on to produce Hungry for Change and Transcendence Season 1 and 2. From debunking diet culture to healing from limiting beliefs and childhood trauma, our films have changed countless lives around the world and were created to make a lasting difference in your life. Because there's no greater asset than your health, and it's critical that we take care of our bodies. And really, as David Wolfe says, the best doctor in the world, the best nutritionist in the world is you. Nobody is more suitably qualified to look after yourself than you. And it's never too late to transform your health and life. With the power of education, we have the capability to achieve anything. If you're interested in seeing our films and taking the next step on your education and healing journey, head to foodmatters.com/films. I cannot wait for you to see them. Or addictive behaviors like maybe gaming or things like this, because often there's people that love or watching movies or binge watching series, because I feel like some of the wolves that I know like some of those activities, you know.
Mhm. Definitely.
Yeah.
There was actually a study that found of all the sleep types, wolves were the most likely to be addicted to phones, as well as games, as well as alcohol, as well as drugs.
Hmm.
They have an addictive personality. It's because it's interesting, sleep types don't just talk about all about sleep, although that's what we've spoken about now because it's relevant to sleep the most, but it actually predicts personality as well. You would have found that when you did my test on my website. And, I think in the results, it's an opening page about, okay, let's describe the characteristic lion. Characteristically, we are leadership types. We are proactive, we are health oriented, we like routine, we're risk averse. Typically we find it easy to be healthy. That's a typical lion. Whereas a typical bear, they're a team player, they're reliable, they're dependable. They're that solid rock that you can count on to do anything.
Hmm.
And then you've got the wolf, and they are more of the outside of the box, unique, fun loving, adventurous, thrill seeking individual. Now, these personality traits are also why it it correlates with different, sleep concerns, um, as we mentioned before. So that's just some of the reason why it's really helpful to know your sleep type, because it helps us identify how much sleep do I need, what are some sleep behaviors that I need to look out for, and what time should I actually aim to wake up and go to sleep.
Mm, nice. Beautiful. Well, I hope people are thinking into which archetype they might be, or chronotype, should I say. And if not, we'll put a link to your site in the show notes so people can check that out. But
Yeah.
we're here also to talk about food, obviously, because that's the title of this podcast. And that's what started this whole movement here with the documentary. But what foods should people? I mean, how does diet and nutrition play a role in how we sleep, and what are some foods that people should maybe? Let's start with avoid for
Mm-hmm.
good quality sleep.
Sure. All right. Number one is sugar. You touched on that just before, but there was a just to acquire that. There was a research paper that found those having the highest intake of sugar were 16% more likely to have insomnia than those having a lower intake of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not talking all sugar as in, complex carbohydrates as well. I mean just the short sugary carbohydrates. That's what we want to avoid. Second to that, a really important factor in diet and sleep is timing. Now, having your last meal at least 3 hours before bed is what I recommend. Now, you also want to make sure that that meal is light, easy to digest, does not have any thermogenic properties. Now, what that means is you don't want it to be spicy. Peppers, leave them for lunch. Why? Thermogenic foods produce thermogenesis, which is heating of the core body temperature. Why that's a problem for sleep is because when we are needing to fall asleep, when we want our melatonin to be produced, a signal for melatonin production is a drop in our core body temperature.
Wow.
This is exactly why we also do not want to do exercise too late at night.
Mm.
It heats our core body temperature. And so, foods that heat your core body temperature excessively, thermogenic foods, peppers, spices, chilies, do not have them in the evening. Otherwise, it's possible that you will find it difficult to fall asleep. But also in terms of the timing, so digesting food is an extremely taxing experience for the body. It requires 10% of our entire energy needs. Now, in the evening, when you want your body to be in the most rested state, just before bed, or when you're laying in bed, if you're asking your body to digest food, that is the complete opposite of being in a very peaceful, relaxed state. So what people find is, what the research has found is, when you eat closer to bedtime, then you stay in shallow sleep because the
Mm.
body is active and can't rest enough to get to those slower phases of sleep, which is essentially, slow wave sleep, REM sleep. And slow wave sleep in particular, that happens in the first part of the night. And that's the sleep time when our body produces that human growth hormone I was talking about before. But it's also the time where our minds detoxify from beta amyloid, a neurotransmitter, to contribute to memory loss. It's also the time when we have that refractory period for our neurotransmitters, such as serotonin and dopamine. So you eat too late in the evening, you don't get slow wave sleep, you don't have that regeneration period that you need. So that's an overview of, like, uh, I wanted to start there because I feel it's really important, that
Mm,
timing, really important to know. Outside of that, specific foods to avoid, sugar is one.
hmm.
Um, Saturated fat is another one. There's been a lot of research that has shown that correlation between a high fat diet and poor sleep quality, particularly contributing to nighttime wakings, light sleep, and an inability to fall asleep. So those are the two biggest, I guess, nutrients to
Hmm.
look out for that in terms of sleep saboteurs.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
But what you're also saying too about timing, eating 3 hours before you go to bed, things like this, also relates to this concept of eating within natural cycles. Like when the sun is highest, when the sun is at its zenith, that's when our peak digestive capability is. So around that noon, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., is we have that peak capability to digest more than later at night. And even if you think about us as a human species, a few 100,000 years on planet Earth, modern civilization is a few thousand years old, and electricity is reasonably recent, and lights. So then we have lights on eating dinner under blue lights at night, later in the evening. It's such a strange idea because going back in time, I mean, you get your food in before the sun goes down so you can see it, or it's very dimly lit around the fire and it's a nice orange amber light, and then you go to bed. So we are now with blue light computer screens, TV screens on, artificial light on, eating these big fatty dinners followed by lots of sugar. I mean, it's little wonder we're completely playing with the system, right?
Right, right. Definitely, I 100% agree with you. I think as humans, we think we feel quite pleased with ourselves. Look at how smart we are. We can have this, a phone the size of this, and it has all these capabilities, and we can have it anywhere, and we can have light whenever we want, and we can eat whenever we want. You may have 24-hour service and all these things. Sure, those things are available to us, but that doesn't mean they're good for our biology.
Mm,
And one of the main problems with sleep is the advent of artificial light.
yes.
Melatonin, our circadian rhythm, the main signal of our primary Zeitgeber is light. What the body understands is that in the presence of light, melatonin, my main sleepiness hormone, is suppressed.
Mm,
Therefore, I am alert and awake. Light also increases cortisol levels because cortisol is an awakening hormone, and the body registers if it is light outside, therefore I need to be awake.
hmm.
It's very simple. But this was completely okay until we invented artificial light, because now we can be exposed to light, and we often are exposed to light from, let's say, 6 a.m. in the morning until midnight. Whereas in the past, and then that only leaves this, like, maybe 5 or 6 hour window of time where we're not exposed to light.
Mm,
But the body is not meant to sleep for only, 5 or 6 hours. No, this is why in the past we have darkness, and therefore the body says, okay, it's dark outside, therefore I am going to produce my sleepiness hormone melatonin. It is going to help me fall and stay asleep.
yeah.
That's our biology. Just because we have artificial lights does not mean our biology has changed. And it's interesting because I'm sure that if you had data on the correlation of sleeping problems, and even from my research, it's becoming worse and worse and worse and worse now, right? What's also becoming worse? The ambient light, our ability to be on our phones all throughout the night,
Mm,
our ability to work at the hours that we want. Often, people are sending emails at, 11 p.m. at night. That's not our biology,
Well, the wolves might
you
be.
know,
I'm certainly not.
right? Right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because these are the same people that then say to me, I just can't switch off in the evening.
Mm,
Yeah, because what you are doing is sending your brain the signals to be alert and awake.
mm,
You know, there was a study that found if you use 100% blue light blocking glasses for 2 hours before bed, participants fell asleep 79% faster than those wearing placebo glasses or fake glass.
mm.
79% faster. You know, there's not any way to get around it, and it loops back into food because, you know, when we're in this rest and digest phase, and when we have darkness, we register that, okay, if it's, you know, I'm not going to eat in the dark, right? But this is when that timing, our darkness, we're still aligned with what's dark outside.
Mhm.
So let's say it's 8 p.m. in the evening and it's dark outside, right? Biologically, this is still a time when we are meant to be at rest. So if you're sitting inside with your lights on, you're having a big meal, this goes against your biology.
Yeah, you're fighting your biology.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. It's insane, really, when you think about it. And I've also read studies, and many experts have shared some data with me about the impact of Wi-Fi um, on our pineal gland, and in the way that it tells our body through these waves that it's daytime. And so you have blue
Mm,
light, we have Wi-Fi, we have these, and then oftentimes when you go to a hotel, you turn the lights off, but that's not doesn't mean it's dark. There's like these little indicator lights, and then there's this light for that. And I just cannot believe it. And then the clock lights next to the bed. I mean, just beaming out light, and light creeping under the door. And I guess, I mean, first of all, most hotel managers don't sleep in their rooms and check this out. And most people are not tuned into the fact that you need a good dark room, cold room to sleep. So, I mean, it's crazy. And then you go to the restroom, well, the toilet, and you put the light on, and it's this bright, like blue light, like whoa, like someone who put the lights
right?
on at the nightclub, when you're meant to leave. And it's like, this is hideous. Like, are we out of our minds? Did we think this was a good idea? You know what I mean? And then you go into a commercial office building, and it is just fluoro light, boom, all day. And look, I guess during daytime, maybe not such a huge issue because that's what outside is doing at that time. But then shouldn't we be creating smart light that's like going up during the day and down at night, and it's mimicking the same wavelengths of the sun? But obviously, we have to wait for the problem first, really, before we make a solution. And the problem is that people have poor quality sleep, and that's because modern blue light is killing that sleep in many respects, right?
Often, yeah, definitely. There are some smart lights that are around, and that there's also some. I actually recommend some blue light free lights that
Mm-hmm.
you can use in the evening that
Okay.
have that, like, you know, warm amber glow. Yeah, I'll include in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, there is the thing is the products are there, but, you know, even when I see private clients, right, I'll ask them, you know, do you have blue light free lights? Like, what are they?
Mm.
Like, the lights you use in the evening? Like, no.
Mm.
And so it's like the products are there, but people aren't aware that in the evening that you actually need these blue light free lights,
Yeah,
and that they exist. And that if you don't have them, that is going to have a major impact on your ability to fall asleep.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
And for me as well, I've become, not only much more aware of this over the years, and I switch off my Wi-Fi at night. I always switch my phone on airplane mode, except for small circumstances when I might need to be contacted at night if I'm away from certain family or things like this. And that's helped me sleep better, I feel. Um, and I've noticed over the years that my sensitivity to light has increased. And I interviewed a
Mm.
gentleman for a new film project I'm working on. It's not out yet, and I think this podcast will be out before it comes out. So I'm good to say that. And he had Oculus photosensitivity, and so we had to really carefully prepare the lights so that it wouldn't impact his. It wasn't too strong for him. And I feel like maybe more people are suffering from eye strain or this photoocular sensitivity because of just the bombardment of blue light or bombardment of certain spectrums of light that we're exposed to
Mm.
now. You know, we've gone from when I was a kid and, you know, maybe we were younger and I'm going to feel old now and maybe we're both going to feel old. We didn't have smartphones. We were kids running around in playgrounds, you know, and now, you know, my kids do and they're looking at it, you know, later and later. And even after the sun goes down, they're looking at things. And wow, we're going to have a whole generation that is really again pushing the envelope when it comes to our biological design when it comes to light exposure
Mm.
and there's going to be some flow on effects for sure.
Definitely. And then there was a research paper that found in 2012 that found individuals using a phone in the hour before bed were 48% more likely to take over an hour to fall asleep compared to those not using a phone. And those using a computer were 52% more likely to take over an hour to fall asleep compared to
Mm.
those not using a computer.
Wow, there you have it, people. And then Brandon Burchard
Yeah.
mentioned data in our Transcendence docu-series that like 86% of people that wake up in the morning, the first thing they do is they like pick up their phone, you know, and they jump straight on it. So it's like this huge cycle of like we're impacting the quality of our sleep and our mental health by having this somewhat an addiction. But like you said, it's a double-edged sword. It's a great tool, but it's a tool, and how can we use it for our well-being? And I know that Gabby Bernstein, a friend of mine, she an incredible spiritual leader. She got given a gift. It makes me remember this. She told me she got given this gift by Ariana Huffington, which was a small little bed for her mobile phone that you can put
Oh,
your phone to bed before you go to bed. And I'm like, what a cool gift, you know? And I think it even had a charger in it, but it looked like a tiny bed. And so, you know, maybe 7 p.m. or something, you know, you go and put your phone into bed, tuck it in,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then you leave it, and then you start to wind down, and then you sleep. And I thought, damn, that's cool. People should have beds for their phones.
Right? But to be honest, that's actually one of the things like that's one of the things that I actually recommend is that charge your phone in another room.
Mm,
Like so 1 hour before bed, I have a for all of my clients, it's a disconnect from tech time.
yeah.
So you have an alarm on your phone 1 hour before bed. It goes off. It says disconnect from tech. At that time, whatever you're doing, whatever tech you're on, it closes.
Yes.
And then you take your phone to another room, you put it on the charge, and that's it. People are like, but I use it for an alarm. Great. There's this great invention called an alarm clock.
Yeah.
You buy one.
And that thing ain't smart. It's dumbass, man. It just tells you what the time is and it tells you to wake up.
Right.
Yeah. You can't look at the news. You can't look at Facebook, can't look at Instagram. Just tells you beep, 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 wake up.
Correct. Correct. Exactly right.
Well, I must say, one
So
gripe I have with the alarm clock, Olivia, if I must, is that often it's this abrasive noise that wakes you up. And I know there's probably better ones now that play nice music, but I've set my alarm on my phone, which I put in airplane mode, and I often do charge in the same room, but I like this tactic. I'm going to try that. I've set Gregorian chants to wake me up in the morning, you know, and I know whenever I've had friends sleeping over or in different rooms, or you know, the kids are always like, "What's that?" And it's this beautiful music, you know, and it's nice, you know. So because a lot of people wake up to this like, and I'm
yeah,
like, "Whoa, that's who would what?" So I hope that you're recommending cool alarm clocks with nice
I am.
tones.
Yeah, I do not recommend that beep beep
Mhm.
beep. It's very alerting. It's very jolting. It's very shocking for the nervous system, and spikes our cortisol levels, and all of a sudden we're feeling really stressed and really anxious, like from the moment we wake up. Not what I recommend, and definitely, I know that there are with the with the sophistication of technology, we do have the capacity to have alarm clocks, not our phones, that have these beautiful soothing tones which gently wake you up. There's also some really cool some really cool sleep technology that um, it wakes you up due to temperature.
Mm.
Now, I believe this is a function of. I'll check this out, but I'll check this out to make sure. But I believe this is a function of one of the products I recommend. So it's a temperature controlled mattress pad. So in the evening, it keeps you cool, which helps your melatonin being produced, right?
Hmm.
But in the morning, when you want to wake up, it increases in temperature, which is a signal to stop producing your melatonin. So therefore, you wake up easier.
That's not going to work for me in winter. I'm sorry. I'm going to be like, what? It's so cozy. I'm not going anywhere. Love it though. It's cool. Tech is helping. I mean, this is the thing, like technology, double-edged sword, it can be incredible and it can be our worst enemy. But before we, get too far to the end of this conversation, let's talk about foods that help with sleep. What type of foods or even supplements or nutrients you might recommend that people could use to sleep better and more efficiently or effectively?
Sure, I'd love to. Okay, so one of the most important things is to make sure that you have high quality protein. Now, why it's so important is because protein is the building block for melatonin, that sleepiness hormone. So you want to also seek protein sources which are high in omega 3s. Now, omega 3s help regulate melatonin synthesis, so it works in a really beautiful symbiosis. So, one of the best foods for that is fatty fish. Now, I know that there are lots of vegans and vegetarians in your community, so having foods like that touch on both or either of those. Foods like tempeh are really great, tofu, great, eggs, amazing, as well as the plant-based sources of protein, things like spirulina. You've also got nuts, avocado,
Mm-hmm.
seeds, algae.
Mm-hmm.
All of these are really high in either protein or omega 3s, but you need them collectively. Outside of that, what else do you need? So definitely focusing on having high quality protein and a plethora of omega 3s, really important. Second to that, I love to encourage having complex carbohydrates. I know that a lot of people are on really low carb, keto diets. But what happens is when the body doesn't have enough carbohydrates, it can't convert protein to melatonin. Now, sometimes I've actually had a few clients who have been on the keto diet and they're saying, I'm waking up all throughout the night. And I've asked them to have, a spoon of honey
Mm.
just before bed. Because what this does is it allows your body to produce melatonin. Now, this is part of the reason why one of the recommended sleep drinks from my book is milk and honey,
Mm.
right? Because milk is really high in protein, and it has the potential building blocks of melatonin, and then honey helps that conversion process. Another key sleep micronutrient to highlight is magnesium. I know that a lot of us take magnesium supplements, but it's also really important to know that it's found throughout our diet as well. Another key sleep micronutrient, zinc. Now, the reason why you need zinc is because it's a cofactor again in the production of melatonin. So, looping back to what foods what foods you find are found for zinc. So, for example, poultry, chicken, and tofu, and then vegan sources are whole grains like oats, quinoa, and brown rice, nuts, and seeds. Now, if you're talking about magnesium, great sources, leafy greens such as spinach, oats, legumes such as chickpeas and lentils. Sorry, leafy greens such as spinach, whole grains such as oats, and legumes such as chickpeas and lentils, as well as nuts and seeds, bananas and avocado. That's
Cacao
just
is
like a
also a great source of magnesium, but however, it's a stimulant with the theobromine. So I know whenever I have dark chocolate before bed, it's definitely not a good thing for me. So if I'm going to have chocolate, it'd be more
yeah,
of a daytime thing. And then I'll get my magnesium then and can sleep better at night. Yeah.
yes, that would definitely be my recommendation. Yes, that's great. Outside of that, some key sleep foods that I definitely recommend, individuals increase. If you eat fish, definitely fatty fish is one of the best foods for sleep. There was a 2017 study that found the more fish the group ate, so those having the highest amount of fish had fewer nighttime disturbances than those having the lowest intake of fish. Um, Other than that, legumes. Now, they're not as well known for a sleep superfood, but they actually are phenomenal because they contain all of the sleep nutrients we need. They've got complex carbohydrates, tryptophan, that's an amino acid or
Mhm.
protein, B6, calcium, magnesium, iron, zinc. Um, there was a 2020 study that found a high intake of legumes helped individuals sleep deeper and wake up less throughout the night. Outside of that, I love to encourage the intake of kiwi fruit. There was
Nice.
a 2011 study that found individuals having two nightly kiwi fruit for 2 weeks saw a 42% increase in their sleep quality after those 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So the reason why is because they're really high in vitamin C, which is another sleep micronutrient, as well as they are also rich in serotonin. And recall, serotonin is converted to melatonin in the evening.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's some great recommendations. Thank you so much. And
Um,
it's been really insightful to talk to you about sleep and about your chronotypes. I find that really interesting, the bear, lion, or wolf. So if people are looking for more information on you, make sure to Google that and you'll find a copy of Olivia's book, or check out the link in the show notes as well. And really grateful to have spoken with you today, Olivia. And thank you for sharing all your knowledge on healthy sleeping habits, nutrients, and the discussion we've had. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor, and it really is. It's really beautiful to connect with you. I am so in awe of the community that you've created, and I can only hope that one day my community will be as strong. And it's just beautiful to see you, leading with such education, such integrity, and just creating such an incredible impact on the wellness of the global community. And it's honestly, I'm honored to be here and really, really pleased to have shared this time. And it's been a beautiful conversation. And I look forward to the next one.
Awesome. So great to connect and to get to know more about your work. Thank you for those kind words. It's what we do here. And have a beautiful day and a great, deep, restful sleep to yourself and everybody else listening to this podcast. Thank you.
For everything that we've mentioned in today's episode, you can check out the show notes. There will be links and information there for you. And before I go, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to invest in yourself and be here for this podcast. If there's anybody that you can think of who could benefit from this information, please make sure to share it with them. We believe in the power of life-changing information, and it's especially powerful when it's shared from a trusted source. And Finally, if you could leave us a comment or make sure to subscribe to the podcast, we would greatly appreciate that. It helps us continue to bring you this life-changing information, and make sure that you get all future podcast updates sent to you. Have a beautiful day, and thank you once again.